can all remain standing for a moment of silence for our first responders and military members. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Councilmember Roth.
Present.
Councilmember Mann.
Present.
Councilmember Soto.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Samar.
Present.
Mayor Moran.
Present.
For the record, all council members, Mayor Pro Tem, and Mayor are in attendance.
Thank you. In regards to closed session announcements, direction was given to staff on both items, 1 and 2. Council, are there any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, we're moving forward. Citizen comments. This section of the agenda allows members of the public to address the City Council on any item not otherwise on the agenda. Members of the public, when recognized by the mayor, should come forward to the lectern and identify themselves. Comments are normally limited to 3 minutes. In accordance with state open meeting laws, no action will be taken by the City Council this evening. For items which are on the agenda this evening, members of the public will be provided an opportunity to address the City Council as each item is brought up for discussion. Any citizen comments on the phone? Okay, coming back to the chamber, any citizen comments? Please state your name for the record.
Yes, Barbara Ratzliff, 1458 Main Street. And I have a concern, a large concern, and I'm hoping that I can get help. I live on Main Street across from the high school. I've lived there for 60 years. So, and actually the traffic has gotten so bad lately that I'm concerned. We haven't had that many wrecks that I remember. But I'm wondering if we could do something like the traffic calm speed bumps that are the large ones. So I don't know if that's something you could do with a grant or whatever, but like I say, it's just like a racetrack. And sitting at home, when I hear that, I think there's going to be a big crash, but evidently, and thank God, there hasn't been one. But I'm wondering if you could think about that or talk about that and see if you can do something. It would probably, from Park Street to Peach is when the traffic is really, really fast. And there's a few cars that I do know that do that, so, but I'm not telling. Anyway, I would like your help. Thank you.
Ms. Barbara? Is that during a particular time of the day?
I'm sorry?
Is that during a particular time of the day where you were in?
Well, actually, later in the evening sometimes. So
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It actually, you know, it's all day. If early in the morning, of course, school's out now, and it's okay. But they just travel. I mean, I'm thinking you've got post things, 25 for school, and then you the police post something, and right after they read that and slow down, then they go like crazy. So that's my concern.
All right. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Council. Rodrigo Espinosa, resident on San Valley Avenue. Also, regarding traffic, there's a lot of traffic on Peach and Sun Valley. In the morning, I'm trying to go to school, take my son, when I go to work or take my son to school. Just the traffic going both ways. It's just like, it's just too fast. So probably the best thing to do there is a three-way stop right there on Peach. I think in the past it has been mentioned. So I also agree, like I said, just traffic, it's just getting pretty fast, around town. So thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Mayor, Pro Tem Mayor, City Manager. My name is Greg Padilla. I'm a Battalion Chief filling in for Battalion Chief Brian White. And we just wanted to formally introduce Robert Wynn, who just got a call just a little bit ago. But he will be assigned to Station 96 in the community of Livingston. He's a very passionate individual that we're lucky to have. He just wanted everybody to know he's looking forward to working with and meeting you all. So thank you.
Thank you. Any additional citizen comments in the chamber? All right, seeing none. Also, I just want to mention that there was another resident that has reached out to me, and I forwarded that information also to the city manager and the police department in regards to some traffic concerns. So just to let everyone know that, we do hear. We do try our best to mitigate or figure out a solution and figure out a process. There's a process in place, but it's something that we have to revise on how to go about traffic studies on certain areas, whether might be because we have another stop sign nearby but we do take note of your concerns. Thank you. All right. Next, we have awards, presentations, and proclamations. The first presentation is by, I'm going to have a hard time with some of those names, but hopefully you guys don't kill me for that. But first one, we have presentation by Aleshire and Winder, LLP, Introduction and Proposed Legal Services. So if we can invite you to the lectern and present a little bit about your firm. And then we'll have some time for questions, if any additional questions from the council and also from the public.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of staff, members of the community. My name is Roy Santos. I'm a partner with Alshire and Winder. We are a full-service law firm. Currently now have 7 offices spread out throughout California, from the Bay Area down to San Diego, with approximately 60 attorneys servicing those offices. Our focus is purely on municipal law. We don't represent any other entities besides cities, counties, special districts, schools, and colleges. As part of those services, we've put a pitch in to be hopefully the next city attorney for your city. We don't take lightly our duties as stewards of public resources, and realize that the work that we do is on behalf of citizens and it's paid for by tax dollars. So one of the founding principles of our firm and why our firm was created was in order to help its clients save money. Part of that was bringing expertise in-house. What we've found is there's such a diverse array of legal issues that face cities and public entities that typically one individual can't know every possible area of law. And instead of having to outsource and hire attorneys with those various specialties, we've brought that in-house. Our firm provides legal services in every aspect of public agency law. The only areas that we don't provide legal services in is taxation. We don't provide tax advice. But any other areas of law that may arise, whether it's land use and planning, code enforcement, labor and employment, NEPA, CEQA, all those areas that traditionally impact cities, we have attorneys with specialties in those areas. Myself, Roy Santos, I'm the attorney who's being proposed as the city attorney. I have approximately 22 years in the legal profession, 15 of those specializing solely in representing public agencies throughout the state of California. My areas of specialty are, I'm not a specialist, but my areas of specialty are general municipal law, litigation, labor and employment. Sorry, my mouth's a little dry. I'm fighting off a a bit of a cold from my eldest daughter that she shared with me. So my apologies, my throat gets dry really easily. So labor and employment and cannabis are my kind of general areas of specialty. And we've put together a team of attorneys out of the Fresno office, which is roughly about an hour drive from here, who would be providing legal services to the city. But in addition to the Fresno team, the entire 60 attorneys within the entire firm are available to the city for any needs that may arise based on their specialties. One benefit of being nearby is that we offer office hours. So should the city choose that service, we typically come up, when I say we, whoever's attending the council meeting, whether it's myself or another attorney, would come up the day of the council meeting. We spend time answering staff questions. We only bill the city for that time that's spent answering staff questions. If we're not answering questions or helping staff members, then we'll be working on other items. And those costs, that way we ensure that the city is only paying for the services actually being provided to the city, but then we have somebody here that can spend time with staff and integrate with staff. We're very much focused on a team approach, and we understand that as a city attorney, it's our job to provide dispassionate legal advice, and by that, it's my job to give you all the options available to you and present you with any legal risks that any particular decision may have, and help guide the city through any legal challenges that the city has. With that, I would be open to any questions that the council or the public may have about our firm.
Council, are there any additional questions that you might have before we go out to the public? All right, so if you don't mind, I would like to give the public an opportunity to ask any questions, if there are any. So I'm going out for public comment. Is there any questions from the public for this firm? All right, so hearing none, I'm bringing it back to the dais. Just one question, and I will ask everyone the same question. And I think you probably already mentioned it, but I'll give you the opportunity to highlight that if you need to. What sets you apart from other city attorney firms from your point of view?
In our point of view, I think it's the fact that we provide a full-service law firm. There's very few in the state of California right now that do offer that level of expertise. And what that means is, any area of law, any issue that may arise, it could be mining law, it could be oil, natural gas. We actually have attorneys that specialize in that area so that the city doesn't have to expend resources, and typically large amounts of resources, in order to obtain outside counsel to do that. So when you retain our firm, the price that you pay for our services is the same price for every attorney, regardless of their specialty. And then that one helps cut costs for the city, because you know exactly what the price is going to be for those services. And then two, it helps with continuity, because you're not having two attorneys effectively working on the same project, because you're always going to need your city attorney monitoring what's going on, because that's the individual who's going to be reporting to you and to the community about what's happening. So effectively, when you're hiring outside counsel, you have two attorneys working on the same project. By keeping everything in-house, you avoid the duplication of work.
All right, thank you. Council, anything else? Good, well, I think that we got that covered pretty much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
I just wanted to thank the council and staff and the citizens for giving us the opportunity to make a pitch here tonight. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it very much. Next, we have also a presentation by Constanzo and Associates, introduction and proposed for legal services. Welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm Neil Costanzo. I'm the principal of Costanzo and Associates. As I mentioned to you in our previous meeting, my firm is a little bit different than the ones you're going to receive responses to your request for proposals from. And that is simply because we are a firm of 2 attorneys only. The reason for that is quite simply, I am a very seasoned lawyer. I've been practicing exclusively municipal law for the last 37 years. I was previously at a very, very large firm, Burke, Williams, and Sorensen, and I was in fact the managing partner of the Fresno office of Burke, Williams, and Sorensen, which is a strictly municipal law firm that has offices all up and down the state. As is typical of an attorney who has been practicing as long as I have, you reach a point when you're working at a large firm like that where you realize that you're not really getting what you should be getting, given the exorbitant overhead that the firm has. You're not being able to do what you want to do, represent what you want, who you want to represent, because of the conflicts of interest questions that become involved when you've got a large firm like that. So my approach is to keep my firm small. I offer myself as your prospective city attorney, backed up, of course, by my associate, which is Michael Slater. I also have a number of very close relationships with other medium-sized firms, 5 attorneys, between 5 and 3 attorneys. And I have relationships with attorneys from Stanislaus County to Kern County and everywhere in between. And most of these people are people that I've worked with in one capacity or another. A lot of them are former attorneys at Burke, Williams, and Sorensen who have also gone out on their own, just like I have. And they are available to me at my beck and call because we have a standing agreement that we simply stand up for one another when they are needed. Some of them have specialized experience that I don't have, and those people are available to me on request to provide that expertise in case that you would need that. So there's certainly a depth of talent available to you if you should decide on me as your city attorney. I think you will find that if you retain me as your city attorney, you will get me, and you will get me doing most of your work. You won't get some inexperienced associate in here to sit at your meetings or to prepare the documents that need to be prepared to represent you properly. You will typically get me and or my associate, and on occasion you will get an outside person from one of these several firms that I have a relationship with. But we think that this approach works very well for us. We think it will work well for you. That is the sum and substance of what I do and how I do it. And I think in answer to the question that you're going to raise for all of us, I think what sets my firm apart from everyone else is talent and experience, and that's it. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have of me and any questions the public might have.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to ask if there's any questions from the public on the phone. Coming back to the chamber, any questions in the chamber? Bringing it back to the dais, any additional questions from the council? Well, got it, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Ms.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Next, we have a presentation by Shute, Maihali, and Weinberger, Introduction and Proposed Legal Services.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am Renee Ortega, and I'm with the law firm of Shute, Maihali, and Weinberger. We are a firm of 41 attorneys and 2 urban planners. We focus, as I mentioned to you earlier, municipal law as well as representing community groups. So we're sometimes able to see sort of both sides of an issue, which I think gives us that advantage, having represented those 2 different types of parties. In terms of, we are a majority-owned woman firm. In terms of my experience, as I mentioned to you, I have close to 20 years of experience. Most recently, prior to Shute, Maihali, and Weinberger, I was with the city of San Jose, focusing on various issues related to the pandemic and working specifically with the departments including, public works, housing, and the administration, as well as the mayor and some of the council members there on providing services related to homelessness. And again, the reason I'm bringing this up is because it's such a multifaceted issue that touches so many different elements that a city needs to address. So in terms of the approach of how we would provide legal services, one of the things that is unique about our law firm is that our partner compensation is not tied to any of the work that we bring in. So my job as city attorney would be to find the person that is most specialized within our firm to provide the services that the city needs. I, of course, would be the point person, and I would have a backup, which I've highlighted to you in our proposal, a designated backup. So it would be either myself or one of my backups who you would be dealing with. We also have proposed office hours, so we would be available on site to meet with staff, to meet with directors. We try to schedule our meetings to make sure that we are efficient in providing those services while we are on site. We would try to coordinate with the various departments and, if necessary, with any one of you while we're here in the city of Livingston. And with that, I just thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. I want to give the opportunity for any questions or comments. Anyone on the phone? Hearing none. Here in the chamber? And the last question, I didn't catch it, or I'm not sure if you included your response. What sets you apart, or if there's anything else you want to add, what sets you apart from other firms?
Sure. So as I mentioned, I think we're unique in that, our partner compensation is not tied to the amount of work that any partner brings in. So no particular person is sort of, tied to a specific client. They are our firm clients. Although I would be the designated city attorney for you. My job would be to find the person most specialized to handle issues for the city. And again, at the same price, partner level, associate level, all at the same price that we proposed.
All right, well, council, any questions? All right, well, thank you very much.
Sure, thank you.
I guess what I can say is that city manager will be, or someone in the office will be reaching out to all of you and let you know what's next. And so, is that right? Okay. So, once again, I just really want to thank everyone that participated for taking the time, and I enjoy reading your big, thick packets with a lot of information. It's refreshing, and it's a good opportunity to learn what what everybody has to offer. So somebody will be following up with you guys, and you're more than welcome to stay. I know you guys love meetings, so you guys can stay if you guys like, but we're going to continue with our agenda. Okay? Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate you guys. All right. Next, we have announcements and reports. Supervisor Rodrigo Espinosa, announcements and reports.
Good evening, Council, again. I had a meeting with the county CEO regarding county roads, and that I was frustrated that they are not doing a good job of patching up our potholes, around my district, and especially Livingston. Earlier today, I drove by the little piece on Dwight, and we got a lot of potholes there as well, and that's the piece that we're supposed to fix as well. Also, down Lincoln, it's in very bad shape, and I've stressed, especially from city limits to west side, it's always bad. They came and they patched, after I told them 2 or 3 times, they came and patched it, and then they left the piece from Magnolia to west side on the northbound side, without patching, and I called them twice already, so they've never been this bad until now. So I got to get on it again. So, but like I said, I had addressed it with the county CEO as well. Also, I just want to say a little bit about Campus Parkway. I think we're almost, they're designing and moving forward with pretty soon in construction on the last phase of Campus Parkway from the 3rd phase all the way to UC Merced. And I think we had like $12 million left from the grant that we got, $100 million grant from a couple years ago. So hopefully they'll be finishing it, but it'll be only a 2-lane road. And then as the UC expands and development expands, they'll be obligated to expand to a full 4-lane, 2-lane each way. Also with that, I had a meeting update with Steve Dejan, because they're proposing about 500-acre developments just south of UC Merced. They've been negotiating with the city of Merced for water and wastewater, for sewage, because I know there was all the developments are trying to, fight for that sewage from the city of Merced. So hopefully that'll be moved forward. And he just told me today we had I saw him today at the anniversary at the Shelby School today, and so he said that I think it should be coming to the Planning Commission, all his development. So it's going to go in different phases, and so that's going to be right next to where Campus Parkway is going to be. First it was going to be to the middle, but now it's going to go on the long side, and then partly on Lake Road all the way to Bellevue as well. I mentioned VST, so the VST is the Virginia Smith Trust that donated thousands of acres for the UC of Merced and all this development area. So that's why, and the Virginia Smith Trust donated can't recall the number of acres, but I know it was like 5,000 acres to the Merced County Association, to the Merced County Office of Education years ago. I can't remember the exact date. But all that money is supposed to go to high school students, and hopefully with this development, that will make more money to continue giving scholarships and funding a lot of the schools in Merced County. And I just want to say that I attended the Stanislaus State commencement. I was invited by the Stanislaus State. They said they had invited all the mayors, but I know that I talked to Mayor Moran, and I don't think he was invited, so I addressed, hopefully they'll invite the mayors next year. As well, I used to be invited when I was mayor here, and I hadn't been invited since since I got elected to the board, so until now. And also, Mayor Mike Nelson was there from Atwater. And also did I received a Yosemite Lake tour. I think next year, 2026 will be a termination of a lease that we have with MID. And the county of Merced, currently we maintain all that, Yosemite Lake. The county has a separate, can't remember how many, about 50 acres on the side, but all that improvements, it needs a lot of improvements to the restrooms and all the areas where everybody goes into Yosemite Lake. So hopefully we'll be working with MID on another 50-year lease, but we're just negotiating that, and hopefully we can do more improvements which the citizens, Merced County citizens, enjoy. And it's a losing for the county, but like I said, all recreation, we subsidize recreation just like the city of Livingston does. So that's for the benefit of the residents. And this last weekend, I attended a tour of the Colorado River. We toured first. We landed in Vegas. Then we went to the Hoover Dam. From there, we were taking about 20 elected officials from around the state through the well education for Latino leaders that I mentioned to Jason. And I mentioned in the past too here as well. They pay for the flight and all the tour. And from Hoover Dam, they took us 4 hours to Lake Havasu, and they showed us how the Colorado River goes down south. And then from there, they pump the water about 250 miles all the way to Southern California. So this was all paid by the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, which is like MID, TID, but this is the biggest one in the United States. I don't know if Christopher Lopez is aware of that one. So it's a nonprofit as well, and I know they have like a $2.5 billion budget. So they do a lot of infrastructure, and so they paid a lot of the Hoover Dam and also the California aqueduct that runs from the Bay Delta all the way to Southern California. So that's how they got the water. And so that was very educational, and so it was very enjoyable too. Plus all the camaraderie that like I said, you make with all your state elected colleagues. Like I mentioned, I attended the Shelby School 50th anniversary today, and with Steve Stigen, so it was very informative for me as well. So the Shelby family was there too as well. So on the 27th, we'll be discussing and probably approving the proposed 23-24 budget for this year in the county, Merced County. And in September, we'll be doing the final budget, either the first or second meeting. So with that, that's all my comments, in case there's any questions. And I'll be happy to answer, or the public.
Actually, I just want to share some information in regards to a resident that the shared concerns in regards to garbage that was dumped south of Peach on Dwight. So it's almost on the intersection of Dwight and Peach, but just about a couple hundred feet south of Peach. I never got a chance to call the county, but now that you're here, so it's just on the right-hand side. It's just right next to the almond orchard. There's a lot of garbage that was dumped.
Between, just south of
Just south of Peach.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll call Public Works tomorrow.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Council, anything else? All right, thank you. City staff announcements and reports.
I think I'll be doing enough talking a little bit later with the budget, Mayor, so nothing for me.
All right, thank you. City manager, announcements and reports. You good later? All right. City council members, Mr. Mann.
Thank you, Mayor. I was part of the Parks and Rec Commission meeting, I believe last week, and a few takeaways from there were the color run grossed over $13,000. It was a huge undertaking, it was a huge success. A couple of updates on the pool. The pool will be opening June 12th and will close August the 4th. Lifeguard training is in process, and I think they should be ready to go on June 12th. And honestly, the commission, this is my first meeting with them, and they're doing a great job over there. They're organized, and a systematic approach to achieving their goals was great to watch. This is what their goals are for the immediate future, and they're doing a great job over there. I'll share some of these goals as they come up for discussion. I also wanted to give a special thank you to the mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and city manager. There was a citizen concern that was presented to, I guess, all of us individually, and it was mitigated in a timely and collaborative manner. So thank you to the team and everybody else that the manager brought in for that. And lastly, for me, along with the supervisor, I visited Merced College at the State of the College event. There's a new art sculpture that is going up that was donated by the Issaquah family. It was a great event, and the college president shared some of the money that was coming their way, and there's millions and millions of dollars coming that way. And they're in great hands right now, and a lot of new programs coming out in the near future. But a lot to look forward to for Merced College. That concludes my report. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Roth.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I attended the Music in the Park 2 weeks ago. Fabulous, great time. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Ms. Soto?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
All right. I only have a few items to report. On the 18th, I attended the One Voice debriefing, so pretty much just meeting with the other agencies from around Merced County that attended the One Voice trip to Washington, and the people that we met with, and what were some of the things that we learned, what were some of the things that we need to improve on and stuff like that. And just to follow up, so just that was on the 18th. And then right after that, I had to run, I wasn't speeding, to Merced High School to hand out a scholarship from the Ana Marie Fuentes Scholarship. And that was, it was a great opportunity to be able to hand over a nice scholarship for a student, a well-deserved student from Merced that will be attending college. Music in the Park. I mean, if you have not had a chance to attend Music in the Park on Mondays, you should. We have a few more to attend, and everyone is welcome, and including fire department and public works and PD and everybody else, the bookkeeper, accounting, everybody. Welcome to attend. So it's normally 6 to 7 p.m. for a couple of hours. It's fun and just music. There's food out there. It's just fun to be out there. So every Monday, and I think there's a few more Mondays, 2 more, right? 2 more. So don't miss it. On the 25th, I had the opportunity to attend the Recreation Commission meeting. Thank you, Mr. Mann, for attending, and he already reported on everything that was discussed at that meeting. On the 30th, it was a pretty busy day. We partner up with the Fresno Area Hispanic Foundation, and they brought 15 different agencies in this council chamber, and there was different workshops, and every agency brought something different. And there was roughly about 30 to 40 different families and people that were here taking advantage of that financial information. It was supposed to be like 2 hours. It was like a little bit over 3 hours. And so we're hoping to do that again sometime in the near future, just to be able to bring additional resources to the residents in our community. And the following day, on June 1st, I was able to attend a lunch with the U.S. Small Business Administrator. And once again, I expressed my concern that a lot of the support and benefits and with funding and opportunities don't really get to reach the small communities like Livingston. And we talked very briefly, you only get like 2 or 3 minutes with them and that's it. So, but hopefully we're going to follow up with that, and hopefully we will have an opportunity to continue bringing resources to our city. And I'm currently working on. I've been in contact for quite some time, and some more recently, with different cities that had shown interest in the past to partner up with the city of Livingston and create sister cities. One of them being Zapotlanejo in Jalisco, Mexico, another one Jalostotitlan, and another one Changuitiro. And I know that some of them are programs that have been in the process for quite some time, but there was a process to be able to get them finalized and make them official and stuff like that. And, so that is another thing that I'm working on. We had a visitor from Jalostotitlan a couple of weeks ago that came over and, just to kind of continue that process and express their interest to continue that partnership. So, and that's it at this time. Moving on with the agenda. Next item we have consent agenda. Council, what is your desire? We have items 5 and 6.
I make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Samra. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Roth. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Councilmember Ross.
Yes.
Councilmember Mann.
Yes.
Councilmember Soto.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Samra.
Yes.
Mayor Moran.
Yes.
Motion approved by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you. Next, we have public hearings. Item number 7. Thank you. Thank you for the reminder. Before we move forward, any public comment on the consent agenda items? Anyone on the phone? Anyone in the chamber? Thank you. Moving forward with the public hearings. Item number 7, resolution amending and/or approving the engineer's report for the Livingston Benefit Assessment District and the levy and collection of annual assessments within such districts for fiscal year 2023-2024, and confirming diagrams and assessments pursuant to the Benefit Assessment Act of 1982 and as provided by Article 13D of the California Constitution.
So I believe we've got someone on the line that,
Right. Susana Hernandez, she's here.
okay, perfect.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members and city staff and members of the public. My name is Susana Hernandez. I'm a project manager at Wildan Financial Services. I'm here at least once a year for this item. And I assisted city staff in preparing the engineer's reports. I joined in case there's any questions from the public. But this is an annual item that's required per the Act in order to put assessments on the tax roll. So I'm just going to tell you a little summary about the benefit assessments. Let's see. So City Council previously approved the formation of the benefit assessment districts along with the methodology of applying an assessment to properties within the districts. There's a total of 18 districts of benefit consisting of residential property. The levy and collection of annual assessments is for the maintenance and operation of various drainage, detention basin, and street improvements within each of the districts. The details of how the parcels are assigned into the districts and the rates for each district are included in the engineer's report. And the proposed assessments for fiscal year 23-24 are approximately $199,321. On May 16, 2023, the City Council adopted resolutions initiating the proceedings and declaring the intent to levy and preliminary approving the engineer's report and setting the time and date for the public hearing for today. So this is a public hearing, and this action requests the City Council to open the public hearing to receive testimony. And there's one resolution before Council this evening to approve the levy and collection of assessments for the City of Livingston Drainage Benefit Assessment District. And upon conclusion of the public hearing, the city staff recommends that council adopt the resolution approving the engineer's report and setting the levy of assessment for fiscal year 23-24. And I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions, council? So I'm going to open the hearing at 8:19. Are there any questions from the public on the phone? The chamber? Bringing it back to the dais. Any questions, council? Okay. Closing at 8:20. All right, so what is your wish, council? We have a resolution before us.
Mr. Mayor, if you're entertaining a motion at this time, I'd like to make the motion to approve the engineer report and levy the collection of assessments and confirming the diagram assessments for the fiscal year 23-24 for City of Livingston Benefit Assessment Districts.
Thank you. We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Samra. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second by Councilmember Mann. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Councilmember Roth.
Yes.
Councilmember Mann.
Yes.
Councilmember Soto.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Samra.
Yes.
Mayor Moran.
Yes.
Motion approved by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you. Next item, item number 8, another public hearing, resolution amending and/or approving the engineer's report for the citywide consolidation landscape maintenance assessment district number 1 and the levy of collection of annual assessments within such district for fiscal year 2023, 2024, and confirming diagrams and assessments pursuant to the provisions of Part 2 of Division 15 of the California Streets and Highways Code and as provided by Article 13D of the California Constitution.
So I could say a little bit about that one as well. Similarly to the benefit assessment districts, we'll then prepare the engineer's report, which is done annually as a requirement of the Landscaping and Lighting Act. And on May 16, 2023, the City Council adopted the resolution initiating the proceedings, declaring the intent to levy, and preliminarily approving the engineer's report and setting the time and date and time of the public hearing for today. There are 26 zones of benefits within the landscaping and lighting district, and it consists of residential and commercial properties. The levy and collection of these annual assessments is for the maintenance of various lighting, landscaping, and park improvements within the zones. The levy for fiscal year 23-24 will be approximately totaling $768,808. So this is a public hearing. This action requests the City Council to open the public hearing, receive public testimony, and there's one resolution before Council to approve. in order to place the assessment on the county tax roll. And I'm here to answer any questions you might have for that one as well.
Thank you. I'm going to open this public hearing at 8:22. Any questions on the phone? Any questions in the chamber? Bringing it back to a dais. Council, any questions?
Yeah, I must be getting old. Back in 1998, I was questioning why we were using San Francisco, Oakland, Hayward as a CPI. So that was just show how naive I was, and now we know that that's one we can use here. So time change over time, you know. But if there's no other comments, I will like to make the motion that we adopt the resolution approving the engineer's report and levy the collection of assessments to confirm the diagrams and assessments of the fiscal year 2024 for consolidated landscape and maintenance assessment district number 1.
So before we do that, I need to close the hearing first. No, it's okay. It's experience, right? You forgot? Okay. Okay. So, all right.
Old age.
Okay. It's okay. It's all right. We're all going to be there. So
Yeah,
I'm just not there yet.
I was having one of those dementia moments here, you know, thinking the old days, you know, but that's okay.
All right.
It happens.
So I want to close this public hearing at 8:24. Now, does he need to restate that because he did a lot of reading?
My motion still stands.
Yeah, you don't have to restate it. That was a
I know.
mouthful.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Samra. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Roth. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Councilmember Roth,
Yes.
Councilmember Mann,
Yes.
Councilmember Soto,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Samra,
Yes.
Mayor Moran.
Yes.
Motion approved by a vote of 5-0.
All right. Thank you, Susanna. Next, we have discussion and potential action items. Item number 9, resolution adopting the annual budget for fiscal year 2023-24, the GAN appropriation limit for fiscal year 2023-2024, and the salary schedule for 2023-2024. Mr. Lopez.
Thank you, Mayor. So happy to be here before you tonight to present the fiscal year 23-24 budget. We have been keeping the mayor and the council updated on the progress and the status related to this item for the last couple of months now. I first off just want to thank and send my appreciation to the finance team, the whole management team, and everybody that's been involved. Everybody knows it's been a pretty cooperative, collaborative process, and it's taken quite a bit of time. So I can't send my appreciation enough to the team that made this happen. So just by way of background, the fiscal year 23-24 budget must be adopted by June 30th, 2023, and it will run from July 1, 2023 to June 30th, 2024. Within the budget that you have before you, it does include revenues, expenditures, the operating budget, the capital budget, general fund, and then also the enterprise funds for the city of Livingston. So some more background, the process so far, this kicked off in January, and the finance team provided budget instructions to the staff management team. On February 24th, the preliminary expenditures were inputted into the financial system. Through the time of March 13th to March 30th, the initial departments and divisions had their preliminary budget reviews. During the time of April 3rd to April 26th, there was a second round of department division budget reviews with the staff. On May 2nd, we had our preliminary budget workshop and discussion with the council, where the council did direct certain items be included in the budget, which is before you tonight. During the time of May 3rd to May 12th, our office coordinated follow-up discussions with departments and divisions with respect to the direction that had been provided by the council previously. June 6th, today, we do have departmental presentations of the council, and then based on the council action tonight, we may have further discussions as needed. So the process so far, We had the leadership from all the internal departments and divisions come together to provide the direct input and feedback on their initial budget requests. After they compiled their information, my office took the lead in coordinating discussions with all the departments and divisions to review a 3-year historical trend of all of their expenditures. There was a line-by-line item review of all of the expenditures, and we went back 3 years to understand previous expenditures in their operations. I will also add that, in particular, on the engineering and the public works side, we looked at the CIP as well, the budgets that had been allocated to those operations, and really aligned the proposed budget with what we think the capacity is, and then what we've historically expensed over the last few years. After those discussions, we had more discussions with departmental staff and had a second review by our office. That really was getting into the nitty-gritty of the follow-up items that we had, the questions that couldn't be answered with those departments, and coordinating the follow-up items with that. And then obviously we had our council workshop on May 2nd, 2023, where we got council direction. And then after that, after incorporating the council direction, a final review to get us to the point where we are now, where we've got a finalized preliminary budget. Just by way of background, again, we did go over this during our last discussion, but you can see in terms of the general fund revenues, you can see that there is a slight decrease of general fund revenues that we are anticipated for the upcoming fiscal year. The staff is very mindful about the state of the local economy, as well as the state of the grander regional and statewide and national economy. So some of the areas that we refined were based on some of the trends that we've seen over the last couple of years, as well as the trends that we've seen over the last year, and then also too based on year-to-date actual revenues that we've collected and what we project to see in the next year. So here's a table that we've got citywide revenues and expenditures, and you can see that we've broken out the citywide revenues by way of general fund revenues, special revenues, capital projects, as well as enterprise revenues. In the table below that, you can see that we've got the expenditure side of that. And anybody will be able to realize that your expenditures are higher than your revenues. And so what we really want to communicate to the public is that there's a couple things that explain that. The ARPA funds were housed in the general fund. There is a transfer of $2 million for a water project that the council previously approved. And so we're just housing it in the appropriate location now so that Public Works can move forward on that expenditure. And then the second item, which is really important too, is that there is fund balance that will be used for capital projects and enterprise funds, which is the difference between revenues and expenses. These are one-time expenses and not ongoing expenses. One of the things coming from communities that had long ongoing budget deficits is I wouldn't recommend a budget that uses ongoing fund balance or one-time monies for ongoing expenses. So the way that we've presented this here, those are one-time expenses for capital projects that the council has previously approved. So there is no issue with respect to having one-time revenues for ongoing expenses. So key takeaways on the revenue side: slight increase in overall taxes, decrease in fines, forfeitures, revenues. We are projecting a decrease in licenses and permits revenues, an increase of about 3.2% in secured property taxes, and about a 1.7% increase in sales tax. So both of those items are really good with respect to what we're seeing in the local Livingston economy. On the expenditure side, key takeaways that we want the council and the community to come away with, and some of these items include additional allocations of funding that were included in tonight's budget, which were not included previously, and that includes, as the mayor mentioned earlier, an increase in the participation of the Sister Cities program. In addition to that, trainings and seminars for the Planning Commission, the Police Department, which we'll be presenting a little bit later. They do have vehicles included in their proposed budget, the replacement of, or new vehicles, 2 new vehicles. There is a 1-year CIP plan, and I mentioned this previously, that there isn't a longer-term CIP for the city of Livingston. So what we've done with the 1-year plan is really geared up the staff and the team to start preparing the conversations for more of a long-term CIP. We felt that a 1-year CIP is a good start for that. What the council should expect in the future is a multi-year CIP, so not getting to the 5-year yet, but maybe a 3-year CIP. We have aligned expenditures with staffing. That goes back to the conversation related to ensuring that when we reviewed the past 3 years of expenditures, that we included budgets that aligned with what previous expenditures were, but also with the staffing that we have here. There are proposed improvements to city facilities, including some of the recreation facilities that we have. There is 1 new FTE that's been added in the administrative services department in the clerk's function. We have included funding for grant writing. That was something that the council did direct us to include in the budget. It also does include IT investments, a migration to Office 365, as well as servers update across the agency. We have included, based on the council direction we received in May, a transition to full-time equivalents on the planning side. So what we have included is a community development director as well as a permit technician position, 2 positions that are now going to be housed in the community development department, which will be represented by city employees. That is a deviation from the current practice where we have those functions performed by consultants. One thing previously agreed upon MOUs with the various bargaining groups throughout the organization have been included in terms of the COLAs that have been afforded to them. That's just the standard cost of doing business that we will need to account for, which have also been included in the proposed fiscal year 23-24 budget. And then there is an allocation of funding for the replacement of IT infrastructure, including some computers that haven't been replaced in quite a number of years. So a lot of this stuff we talked about previously. Some of these items were things that the council directed at the last council meeting, or I'm sorry, the first meeting in May. And so we wanted to make sure that they were included in the budget document. So again, included in the final budget, based on the discussion on May 2nd, we did have a conversation related to contract staff versus in-house staff. We have included the community development director position as well as a permit technician that's been included in the community development department budget. On the grants management side, another area that the council felt strong about, we included $20,000 included for grant writing services, and you'll see in the worksheet that $20,000 is spread amongst various funds to account for the various areas where we would pull that funding from based on the need that we currently have. On the IT infrastructure side, we do have funding allocated for the replacement of computers, servers, and the Office 365 migration. There is a dollar amount that's been allocated on the Office 365 migration as well as the servers item to account for the staffing needed to implement that migration. And then, as I mentioned in the previous slide, $15,000 included for the funding of the Sister Cities program. One note that I should add, the council and the public also have an errata sheet for some of the items listed above, which is also included in our discussion tonight. That is in the backup, and you can find that worksheet on page 219 of the agenda backup. So now is where all the fun stuff happens, and I'm hoping that I can minimize my talking, but I will have a couple of departments that I will talk about. But we do have all of our operational departments and divisions that are here to talk about their budgets. What we have done is we've compared fiscal year 23 or 22 to 23 to 23, 24. So you can see the comparison based on the previous fiscal year's budget to the proposed budget and some of those high-level items that have been included in their budget. So with that being said, admin service, I guess I'm not going to get that big of a break. I will be talking about admin services. Admin services includes the finance department, the city clerk's office, city manager's office. And so within this budget, you can see that in the fiscal year 22-23 budget, just over $1.3 million. For fiscal year 23-24 proposed, you can see that there was an increase to $1.6 million. You can see some of the notable additions to the fiscal year 23-24 budget: legal services, registration and training, travel, conferences, dues, membership, and fees, as well as the transfer out, which I can get to in the next slide. There is about $5,000 that we've allocated from the admin services operation to cover grant writing services. The allocation of just under $6,000 for the Office 365 migration, as well as some of the server updates. And that's just the allocation for specifically the admin services function. So that's the allocation that is going to be expensed against the clerk's office, city manager's office, and then the finance department. I should add that you'll notice that there is a transfer out. There is a $302,000 increase in the transfer out, and that transfer out is primarily to cover the difference in revenues for recreation and community development. I have had some conversations with the finance team with respect to whether this is the best way to illustrate this transfer out. For a member of the public that may not be familiar with the budget, it may not provide the most transparency. Other cities may include this as just a transfer out to recreation and community development, and not necessarily housed in the administration services department budget, because it does give the impression that this is a expenditure within those departments, but it's really an expense that's housed in the recreation and community development function. So we are talking about how to best change that on a go-forward basis.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So specifically, and probably somebody out there, because I'm having that question, somebody else out there is also thinking about, okay, so it looks like we have $302,000 that is being transferred out, increased to cover expenses in recreation and community development. But the first thing that comes to mind, most people's mind, is recreation. Can you explain, or that not everything or all of it or most of it is specifically for one or the other?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and this question does come up. There's a kind of a fundamental question about, okay, what departments are essentially able to fund themselves based on the revenue that they collect. The recreation department and the recreation function, for I'd say probably every single city in the United States, is a program that oftentimes is not necessarily aimed at collecting the costs of providing the service. So oftentimes cities will provide services to the community, whether that's with baseball, softball, basketball programming, and it's subsidized, meaning that the city will cover the cost, the bulk of the cost for that, and will offer a reduced amount that the members of the public can pay for to participate in that function. So it's something that helps build communities, it helps strengthen communities. And so if we were to allocate or to cover the complete costs of that, it would probably be unaffordable to the bulk of members of the community. So this is to cover the increase of costs, expenses in recreation. There are a couple things that did come up. The 4th of July full allocation has been included for this fiscal year, as well as the additional increase in the pool function. Over the last couple of years, the pools were not open to the public because of COVID. We've implemented that program again, so we've had to account for the costs associated for recreation. On the community development side, a lot of these costs should be covered by the development community, because we're essentially providing a service to the community that nobody else in the community benefits from. So developers, applicants come in, we provide a specific service to them. In the city of Livingston, the general fund does subsidize this cost for a few different reasons. One, the fees for service haven't been updated in quite some time. And then two, there's probably an opportunity for the staff to do a better job in collecting its costs. And so we are working through some of those things, whether that's better communication with applicants, letting them know that we've expensed all of the fees that we've collected or the deposit, and then going back and getting an additional allocation, because again, these are services that don't go to the general public. It's just specifically for developers and applicants. So I hope that answers the question, Mayor. Okay, so you can see the additional costs that were not related to the transfer out included the new deputy city clerk or assistant to the deputy city clerk / records management. A portion of that will be covered by the general fund, and then a portion of that will be covered by enterprise funds. That is a new FTE that we've included in the budget. Okay, so I think I'm done for a few minutes at least. And now we've got PD and we've got Deanna Soria, the admin services manager for the police department, that will be providing the overview of the police department budget.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. So for the police department budget, our budget technically went down just over $300,000. And that primarily fell in the insurance area and the salaries area. The two main items that we're asking for this year is a police Ford Interceptor vehicle, a 2023 vehicle to replace a patrol car. And currently the patrol car that we're looking to replace is a 2016 Ford Interceptor, and it has over 120,000 miles. And so those are hard miles, being that it's only really driven here in the city, and so it's really getting end of life. The other vehicle that we're asking for is an evidence collection van, and that particular van that we've received the quotes on is a fully outfitted van. So it's a Ford Transit Van Connect, and it is fully outfitted with racks and everything in the back to be specifically used for evidence collection and crime scene collection functions. The vehicle that we're currently using for that is a 2001 Ford Expedition with over 106,000 miles on it. So it's a 22-year-old vehicle that was kind of converted and kind of pieced and put together to be our evidence collection. So that's what we were looking for that. And those are the two major items that we have on our budget. And so that's kind of what I've explained there. The evidence and crime vehicle that we currently have, it's old and outdated, and it's hard to provide maintenance on it, and it's becoming more costly than it is value to have anymore. Do you have any questions?
Any questions, Council? And no, we cannot use that van for barbecues. Right?
I don't know if we want to use that van for barbecues, depending on what might have carried in the past.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Council.
So I'll cover this one. This one is a relatively small expense that shows up in our budget, but this is the fire department budget. You can see that in fiscal year 22-23, about $147,000 was directly allocated for the fire services, and in the fiscal year 23-24 proposed about $107,000. And this is primarily for maintenance and operations within the station, so the replacement of equipment, I know HVAC, those types of expenses that the city is obligated to pay for since it is the city's facility. And I think Mayor Pro Tem brought this up at the May discussion. There is a pretty significant allocation of revenue that does go to fire services, so it was important to note that. Within the revenue sharing agreement between the city and the county keeps the fire portion of city property taxes. For fiscal year 22-23, the county will receive an estimated $950,000 in fire revenue, which the county uses all or a portion to provide services to the city of Livingston. So the total funding allocated to fire service totals $950,000 from the property taxes, plus the $107,000 that we've included for the proposed 23-24 budget, for a total allocation of just under $1.1 million for fire services for the city of Livingston. So that is a unique nuance that, as Mayor Pro Tem identified at the last meeting, it's very important to make that known to the public.
Yeah, it is important to note that the true cost of providing fire services, if it wasn't being transferred through the county, we were collecting, we would still have the same expenditures, but it does give a better picture, I think. And also, this is slightly off topic, but not. At one time, I had told, I think I advised you and Public Works regarding the fire station's floor that was damaged. Was that ever repaired?
So that was one thing after you told me. I think there was another council member that told me too. The staff got right on it, and I know with, I believe it was Captain Lester leaving, he was having difficulty getting contractors to actually provide quotes, but I do believe that the team is working on getting those quotes. And last update that I got from Battalion Chief White was that I think there was one that came in and they're waiting for a second, I believe, but I think we're really close on getting that. And there are no issues with that. We've already told our insurance about that, so it's just a matter of getting the purchase order approved once we have the quotes and moving forward.
Thank you.
So that wraps up the fire department budget if there are no other questions, Mayor.
Any questions, council? All right, let's move forward.
So now we've got Anthony from Public Works.
Good evening, Council, City Manager, members of the public. Anthony Chavarria, Public Works. I'll be giving the Public Works budget overview, starting with our administration budget. Our 23-24 proposed administration budget has a reduction of $16,000. Our Parks budget, 23-24 proposed budget, has an increase of approximately $65,000. Our proposed water enterprise budget has increased by $88,000. Our wastewater enterprise budget proposed 23-24 is increased by approximately $1 million. And I'll further explain that here in a bit. Our streets, which is our gas tax fund, has decreased by approximately $54,000. What caused the increases and decreases? In our water enterprise fund, mainly due to workers' comp and insurance. In our wastewater enterprise fund, same thing, workers' comp and insurance increases. Our maintenance and operation budget increased due to a new sewer combination truck and a sludge thickening equipment installation project. Our parks budget increase in part-time employee cost. Also, it's increasing due to building repairs, additional park benches, barbecue pits, a planned turf conversion for City Hall. Proposed equipment and vehicle is a portable 6-inch self-priming diesel pump, cost shared by water and the wastewater fund. A portable diesel generator, cost shared by water and wastewater enterprise. Utility service pickup, $55,000, cost shared by gas tax, water, wastewater, LMDs, and sanitation fund. That will be replacing a 2006 utility pickup that knocking already and it's falling apart, so it needs to be replaced. Also, we're budgeting for a sewer combination truck, $600,000 for the water enterprise fund. That was included in the rates. The vehicle we have now is old, it's falling apart. It's not very reliable anymore, and It's an important piece of equipment. That's our last line of defense there to clear these blockages in the collection system to prevent any sewer overflows. Quick glance at our one-year CIP. Well 8 replacement project in our Water Enterprise Fund. This well is going to be a brand new well replacing well number 8, which is our oldest well. Sludge drying equipment purchase and installation project in the wastewater enterprise. That's why we have that increase of about $1 million in the wastewater budget. Parks, phase 1 and phase 2 multi-use pathway at Max Foster Sports Complex. That'll be the corner of Walnut and Dwight. Be improved curb and gutter, 10-foot wide sidewalk, which is going to be the multi-use walk and bikeway path. And that'll terminate at Trigger. In our streets, we have a 2023 slurry seal project, which is focused on the north side of town. Our storm infrastructure, we have East Avenue Lift Station renovation project, scheduled to take place. That's it for the presentation. Be happy to answer any questions if council has any.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Anthony, I'm not sure, maybe I missed it, but we have as you're fully aware, we have a problem child, Fred Warren, where the water kind of sits. We have to move in those portable pumps. What is our long-term, or what is our plan to not have to go through that again next year if it rains heavily like it did this year? You know, the water standing,
Well, the long-term plan is going to be to locate some money to pay for the improved infrastructure installation. Short-term plan is we're going to, which staff has already completed, is go out there and disc and start ripping, deep ripping. That basin has not been deep ripped. The city purchased about a year and a half ago a tractor along with a 3-foot long ripper shanks just for that purpose, to improve percolation rates at the wastewater plant by deep ripping the ground to allow for increased percolation. We're going to rip, which we already did, staff already went out there and disced and ripped Frederick Warden to try to improve. They will be back out there again before the start of the next rainy season to deep rip, but again, to see if we can improve the percolation rates. But long-term, as you all know, we need to install some infrastructure there to discharge that water to the MID canal.
Yeah, so do you feel comfortable, and maybe it's not the proper word to use, but if we do deep trenching, ripping, you think it will help, or do you think it's gone so far down that no matter how far we go, based on the equipment we use, that it's not going to hit that hard pan even below that?
Well, this next season is going to be a good season to measure that, to see if there was any improvement in the percolation rate with this, because since we have water lines that run through that basin, nobody's been there to deep rip that till now.
How far down would it go?
3 feet. That's pretty standard with ripping ground.
That's not very deep.
No, but that's a standard for ripping.
We may have to have a community buy-in with a bunch of shovels, but no, but it is one of the areas of issues that we have, even though the most water is gone, but when people start irrigating their lawns and all that, there's always that. And, the concern always is, if it's water standing, do we have mosquitoes? Mm-hmm. And that's, it's going to be it was a pretty wet year. So based on what I'm hearing, it's going to be a heavy mosquito season as well, and we didn't want to add to it further, you know? So
Right.
that's why I was kind of concerned about that, you know, so.
And that's another reason why we're requesting a portable diesel generator in the meantime for the short term, just to help remove that water from the basin and discharge to the MID ditch that's behind Frederick Warden for the short term.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Council, any additional questions for this?
Anthony, when I'm looking at your parks, the multi-use pathway, and it's going through 2 phases and it's 1.2, eventually 1.2. What does that look like? Because I heard you say it's going to go Walnut through to Dwight up to Trigger, which is the halfway point on Dwight. So is this more like a sidewalk for that area, or is it going to encompass an area where children can ride their bikes, people can walk and jog, sort of what we were looking at in our general plan, so as a physical exercise pathway, or is this a sidewalk?
Exactly. That's why it's called the multi-use pathway. So they will be improving and picking up where the sidewalk and curb and gutter terminates on Walnut, just past the daycare center there, the Walnut Center. And that's where the new curb and gutter sidewalk, but that sidewalk's going to be a 10-foot wide multi-use pathway for jogging, for bike riding, a trail, a pathway. And that will run to Trigger. I think right past the park. It's right past, pretty much, yeah. I believe so, right in that area. And that's something we could look into on additional call for projects through CMAQ is where to run the trail next.
When I'm seeing that, now you're saying it's 10 feet, so we're gonna take that whole grassy area
That's correct.
and take away parking from baseball games and soccer games
There'll
and
still be
events.
some parking there. And we'll save a lot of sprinklers and dead grass as well, because man, they really do a number on the sprinkler system out there at the park, and a lot of leaks, and so. But there still will be some street parking as well. It won't be all eliminated, but yeah, there won't be as much as you see now with them driving up on the grass in the park.
Anything else? Anthony, so that 600 and 600, is that going to be just for that section, or is that 600 for the one section and then 600 for, well, I know it says phase 2, but the 1.2 will just...
It's both phases.
Both phases.
So they're
just
gonna
up to
work on
Trigger.
them at the same time, yeah. So it'll
Okay.
be completed. It won't be one phase is gonna be this project and we won't start the next phase till the following year. It'll be completed at one time.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? Okay, we're good, thank you.
Thank you.
So now we've got Miguel to present on community development.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, members of the public. Miguel Galvez, I'm your contract planner and land use planning. Here to talk about the Community Development Department for the city of Livingston. We got 2 slides. The first slide deals with revenues. The second slide will deal with expenses. We pretty much show a decrease in revenues from last year to this year. If you look at revenues, the middle chart there, 796,000. That reflects that we had expected 2 apartment projects to come in. They didn't, the Tierra Santa and the Villages apartment complexes. They're still in the process. We expect those to come in, but that's why we showed an increased revenue under the first line there. The second line is the transfer in from the general fund. That's an increase. from 127 to 326,000. That reflects the conversion of contract services to two full-time equivalent positions, a community development director and a building permit technician. Overall, the total revenue that we expect is a slight decrease. You can see there from 923 to 907,000. So that's our proposed budget for this next coming year. If we go on to the next slide under expenditures. Building there, you can see we're proposing expenditure of 217,000, it's a decrease of 19,000. Planning, we had also a decrease of about $60,000. Engineering, that's an increase. An overall reduction of expenditures of about 15,000. One of the issues that we've been wrestling with, as the city manager had mentioned, was just revenue recovery. Our fee schedule has been stale, I'll just say that. And we would collect them out, but it's often difficult to recover our costs once the applications are made to the City Council and Planning Commission. And so we've been trying to recoup that. And I think with our ability to kind of relook at that fee schedule, the city will be in a much better position to collect some of the fees up front, and then it'll be on a cost reimbursement basis. Rather than going after money, we would have a deposit that we can balance out at the end. Overall, I think the planning department kind of sees a possible slight reduction because of the economy, the recession, interest rates going up. People are more hesitant to move forward with their projects, but we want to be ready. You know, there's opportunities there as well when property values go up, then people want to buy in and kind of cash in and move forward. I will say that, you know, since J.B. Anderson has been here, you know, the previous consultant was here 1 day a week, and now we've been here 3 days a week with increased development with activities like the general plan update, the housing element update, the update of the master plans. You really do need a full-time equivalent position, and the budget will reflect a transition from the consultants to full-time equivalent mid-year. That pretty much concludes it. We see the full-time position of a permit tech, which is right now under a consultant basis, and the full-time equivalent for a community development director. I'm happy to respond to any questions.
Council, any questions? Good. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Miguel. So I'll cover recreation. Jackie is out temporarily. So you can see that the fiscal year 22-23 adopted budget was just under $540,000. And you can see that the increase in the expense is just over $100,000 for that. In the table below, you can see the increase and what the dollar amount associated with that increase is. You can see that we did have an increase of the swimming pool staff salaries of just over $23,000, swimming pool operations of $1,900, the complete cost of the 4th of July event at $38,000, as well as an online registration program to help ease members of the community so that they can register for our different programs virtually and online. And then also to bringing back the recreation office assistant part-time. So that's the part-time hourly dollar amount for having someone assist at the counter part-time. You can see a summary of what I just discussed, and I really just want to take a moment to highlight the recreation department because I've spent time in cities with 220,000 members in the community. The previous community I worked at had 90,000 members of the community, and the recreation team here puts those communities to shame. And so with the programming that we have, with just the two staff members that we have, it's pretty remarkable what this community is able to do. I know I was at the Music in the Park event last night that we've been able to partner up with one of our community members to really put that on. And it's incredible what what the city of Livingston offers to the community and to its residents. And I've mentioned this to the council, being an outsider that wasn't familiar with this community previous to coming here, and now being in the middle of this community, it's pretty remarkable. And so I think the council should be really proud of the recreation opportunities that are provided to the community. It's pretty remarkable, and I would put this recreation program against any other program, across the state. So it's something that the council should be proud of and pat themselves on the back, because it is because of the funding that's allocated by the council and the vision that the council has for recreation that allows this to happen. So I just wanted to give a plug out to the council for that. So that was the last departmental conversation. The final remarks that I do have on this is that it's been comprehensive, it's been collaborative, and it's been very inclusive. We created this with direct council input. I know that all of the conversations I have with my one-on-ones with the council members, we talk about the budget. At the first meeting in May, we did get council collective direction on what the council wanted to include on the budget. So it's been very hands-on, and the council's imprints are all over this budget. And then lastly, I started the conversation off with this, and I want to conclude the conversation with this. I can't thank the staff enough for the effort that they put into doing this. And just to give a plug out to the finance department, I know I mentioned this to Brad, and I also mentioned it to Happy. This has probably been one of the best budget processes I've been a part of, and it's really allowed, the finance department really took the lead in the follow-up items, preparing the budget document, doing the follow-up with HR and all the rest of the department. So I can't thank Happy, Brad, and the rest of the finance team for really taking the lead and really making this, from my perspective, pretty fluid and pretty consistent. So I can't thank everybody enough. And then the entire management team, Public Works, Community Development, Engineering, PD, Fire, everybody made this really a great process, at least from my perspective. So I can't thank them enough for all the work that they did on the front side to make this as collaborative and comprehensive as possible. So with that said, Mayor, I think that wraps up all my comments. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Council, any questions?
Mr. Mayor, more of a comment than anything else. In adding to Mr. Lopez's comments regarding recreation, I absolutely positively agree. We do have hardworking staff that does recreation. Over the years, one thing Livingston Council may have difference of opinions over the years on different items. One thing kind of united everybody was their support of recreation. And we did hear many times, when I hear from there, why are we putting general fund dollars? And my remark always been, it's cheaper for us as a community to have them throwing balls than rocks out there. It's always cheaper. Have them in a safe environment, they're having fun, they're getting fresh air, is better than causing havoc for us out there. So I just wanted to add in there that I hope that the future councils will continue to support the recreation program, even if it means taking a few bucks out of a general fund.
Mayor, I did have a follow-up question. Chris, for the permanent tech and the community development director, how quickly do you think you can get that filled, those positions filled?
So the community development director position, that position exists. There's a job description. So as soon as the council, assuming the council wants to adopt this budget, what we would do is we would immediately start recruiting for that position. I would anticipate we would want to have that advertised for at least 4 weeks. Probably spend a few weeks reviewing the positions, then doing interviews a couple weeks after that. So I would say that it probably takes about anywhere from 4 to 5 months to get someone on board permanently at that position. The way that we've included it in the budget is half and half, so 6 months of the year is a contractor, 6 months as a full-time equivalent. But I think if we were aggressive, I think 4 to 5 months would be good. On the permit technician side, that one's a little bit more unique because the job position doesn't exist, so we would need to meet and confer with the respective bargaining group, get the position created, establish the salary range for that one. So that one takes a little bit more work. But I think if we begin with that one, I think probably within 6 months we'll be good with that one too.
Thank you very much. And since I have the floor, just a big, big thank you to the entire group. You did a phenomenal job. Thank you for your time and effort. Appreciate it.
Council, any more questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, I'm just going to elaborate on all that. I think all the heads of the staffs and departments, you all do a wonderful job. Recreation, kudos to them as always, and that's it.
All right, so anyone else? So I do have a question. It's more for clarification. On page 25, if you look on the top where it says special revenue, item 1120, community development, there's estimated balance as of July 1st, 2023. We have a negative amount of 542,337, and but then if you move all the way across to the estimated balance at a year later, 6/30/2024, it shows a negative, the same amount. But I understand what that means, but just in case anyone in the public or watching at home needs a broader explanation how we get, how we are currently negative on the community development section and how we're still going to be negative a year from today. I don't know if this is finance or Mr. Lopez, anyone?
So, are you looking at the fund?
1120, right under
Community-
special revenue?
Yeah, so this is one of those nuances, and I've talked about it with finance. Similar to the recreation fund as well as the community development fund, it really goes back to that philosophy of the operation collecting the appropriate amount of revenue to offset its expenses. So when an operation doesn't collect the necessary revenue to offset its expenses, there needs to be a subsidy to make that whole. In the city of Livingston's case, the general fund covers up that hole. And so in the ideal situation, particularly with community development, you would have a net zero impact to the general fund. But what you are seeing here is a couple things that we talked about, the lack of a fee study that's been completed recently, so we're not recovering the appropriate costs. And I'll just give one brief example. We know that in this proposed budget, we've got cost of living adjustments for our employees based on the MOUs. If your fee study or if your fees aren't keeping up with the cost of living increases that are going into effect, you're essentially digging yourself a hole. And I know just in the last 3 years, we've had 3 cost of living adjustments for employees. That's not to say that that's a bad thing, but it's just typically the market in general, whether you're going out to buy milk, it's probably going to be higher than what you paid for it today. Same with gas. It's going to be higher probably tomorrow than what it was yesterday. And if you're not adjusting them on the fly to adjust for those market fluctuations, it's going to impact you. This is how it impacts us when we don't do those types of things or we're not collecting the appropriate amount of fees for those items.
And so just to, so if we look in between the estimated balance as of July 1st, moving forward, in regards to revenue, whether it is from licenses and permits, intergovernmental from other agencies, charges for services, and other, and then transfers in, it equals to $907,953, which will equal the same amount for the expense or the expenses for this upcoming year. So our purpose is to not spend more than we are collecting, but to rather just spend the exact amount that we're going to be collecting. And that is why we begin with the same amount, 542,337, in July 1st, and then a year later we end up at the same amount. So we're just to making sure that we're not digging, to demonstrate that we're not digging ourselves deeper in the hole. But at least, not that it's good, but at least we're demonstrating that we're not making it any worse.
Yeah, and there's a couple things that I'll add to this too, and this is really an accounting situation here, and I completely understand it because it's common in many cities, but it does create this unique situation where a member of the public will look at this and say, how are you operating this fund in a deficit? And to your point, the transfer out is making it whole, so it's, it works out from an accounting perspective. The second item that I will add is, and this is just a hypothetical, let's take, for instance, that there was no development activity for the next year. We know that there's still going to be members of the public that are going to come in and ask questions, whether that be to planning or whether that be to NOE and engineering. So there's always going to be a cost associated with providing that service. What our goal is to try and get that cost, understand what that kind of consistent cost is on a daily basis for engineering and planning. And on the areas where we would be able to recover those costs, that we're doing our best job to recover all of those costs. And I can say, based on the conversations I've had with the council members here, that is the desire and the feedback that I'm getting. And so the approach that we're taking now is a little bit more, I'll say the approach that we're taking now, or that we're attempting to accomplish, that we're taking, is more in line with what is a common practice across cities across the state.
Thank you. Any other questions before I go out to public comment? All right, so I'm going out to public comment. Is there any public comment in regards to this item number 9, on the phone? Anyone on the phone? Okay, coming back to the chamber, are there any questions in the chamber? Bringing it back to the dais. Are there any questions, comments, suggestions, recommendations, wishes? We can just wish for more money, but we can only do so much tonight.
Will you entertain a motion at this time?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I make the motion we adopt the resolution which includes the budget for fiscal year 23-24, the GAN limit for the fiscal year 23-24, the salary schedule for 2023-4, which is in accordance with all the current employees group memorandum of understanding MOU and capital projects for 23-24.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Samra. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Roth. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Councilmember Roth,
Yes.
Councilmember Mann,
Yes.
Councilmember Soto,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Samra,
Yes.
Mayor Moran.
Yes.
Motion approved by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you. Next, we have council direction on future agenda items. Council, anything? Hearing none. We're going to adjourn this meeting at 9:21. Thank you, everyone. Good night.